First, let me start by saying congrats on the movie. My only complaint is I couldn't see this on an IMAX screen in the biggest possible thing. That's it. That's all I got. I'll see you later.
We feel for you. Yes.
But jumping in, one of the things I think about animated movies is a lot of people don't know the behind the scenes. What do you think might surprise people to learn about the making of Luca at Pixar?
I feel like the thing that always surprises people is the timeline. And, the fact that it usually takes about 5 years to make one of our films.
Yeah, the painstaking. I think we've heard like how, and this is still worth mentioning because I think it's a natural thing to think of that something comes pre-made when you don't know how it was made, or that we plug a cable into our brain and the computer animates the characters. That it's painstaking and that you really have to work with a diamond and a lot of rough for a couple of years. And so there's different ideas. So it's really this adventure in making it. So you set off and there's a lot of moments of we felt very meta because there were some moments where you feel really lost, and then you get back up and you go and chase the story again. And then there's a huge amount of collaboration in the way that we find the moments and the way that we find the performances. The animators. With the animators, we're looking for a style at first. How can they move a little different? Let's get inspired by some of the things that I grew up with, that I love. Now what do they bring? And every moment can get elevated in the way they move. So, I think there's so many wonderful moments, but they're all they're all involving a lot more work than what I think we think.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't realize that like the transformation from the ocean to the land, every part of that has to be thought about and designed. And I think if you do it well, people just think it's real, that it's just natural.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, seeking a sense of effortlessness, it's always kind of the goal, right? So simplicity. We talked a lot about less is more. Less is more. It doesn't mean it's any easier to do it, and it'll take time, right? I think Steve Jobs was the guy who really brought that to the front of simplicity being so difficult. So yeah, I think it takes us a long time, but we pour our hearts in it. We put a lot of the layers in it, so we're really excited to show it to the world. And yeah, and you talk about the wouldn't it be nice to see it in Dolby, IMAX, and we really do miss that. I think the solace I take on Disney Plus is you can rewatch it and stop it and look at all these wonderful details we put in it.
Speaking exactly of that, I love Pixar movies, and I love that there's always buried Easter eggs that sometimes don't come out for a while. Can you talk a little bit about maybe certain sequences people should push pause on?
Yeah, there are a little bit. There's a few different types of things here. What I really treasured is putting love letters to the culture of Italy. So there's some that are just actually all in the signage. And we had a lot of fun designing the signage of the beautiful town. And you will find a lot of those in there. And they are as different as a writer that is amazing from Italy, or a director. The golden era of cinemas of the 50s and 60s. One of the big reasons we put it in this period. So there's a lot in the setting that we love to put in there, so that whenever you're in that square, there's a lot to have fun with, I feel. And then there's the ones that are more the classical Pixar ones, which are like where is the Luxo Ball? Where is the Pizza Planet? And I'll give you a little bit. They're in the third act. I want on in on too many details, but yeah, I think that the pleasure of designing the sets, it's that. And then with all these fun homages, there's an homage to Marcello Mastroianni. If you're an Italian movie buff, there's a lot to look for here as well.
Andre, can you talk a little bit about, there's an after the credits scene at the very end. Can you sort of talk about that sequence? And was it always going to be that, or was it going to be, how did that form? Was it ever going to be something else?
Yeah, we do have a little button at the end of the credits. And, that came out of when we worked with Sacha Baron Cohen as Uncle Ugo. He's so talented. He's so fun. You just, show up in the studio and he's like, how do you want this? And he tries it all these different ways and it's really playful. And honestly, we have so much fun material that we couldn't fit in the film that we kind of said, well, let's add one more little bit at the end. So it really just came from an incredible abundance of really fun material.
He gave us so much fun improvisation that we were dying to put more in it.
If I can ask, what was the last thing that you guys took out of the film before picture locking, and why?
We were always snipping little shots here and there, just trying to tighten up the moments. That was definitely kind of an ongoing process. In terms of like an actual story beat.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if we absolutely cut something kind of toward the end. I do know a couple of things came into focus a little bit later. Like, for example, I think the thread of the parents was something that we were trying to figure out how much to have them in the movie. So the fun of them being on the trail of Luca came a little bit later as we found also the performances. So that was an interesting thing where, like, together, once we got Jim Gaffigan and Maya in the mix, we realized, oh, this is so much fun. Let's put them really behind them and let's have them have their own journey through this, because they had something to learn to get to the ending. So that was something that wasn't right there halfway through, that it came into focus toward the end. And yeah, I can't think of something we cut down radically toward the end.
I think we were always looking for places where you could get away without dialogue. Like one example was at the train station at the very end when Luca, we used to have him say, Alberto, like, what's going on, or something like that. But instead we just took it out and just had him look at Alberto like, and have his face say that, So I think especially in animation, when you really want that performance to sell as much of that as you possibly can. So we really always looked for opportunities to take some dialogue out and let acting do the job.
My last question for you. Often with animated movies, they can go through radical changes during the production process. Can you talk about how this film was maybe a lot different at the beginning? Or, can you sort of talk about that kind of, the way things evolve?
Yeah, it's quite easy to do because I just gave some commentary to the deleted scenes. So yeah, it was more. It was a Stand By Me, kids on an adventure. There were sea monsters, but there were 3 of them. So it became pretty clear that we had to focus in the movie a little bit. It was they were on a quest. They were on a quest looking for magical object that would completely turn them human. So we had the setting, we had the rough ideas of the sea monster, the friendship. But we had to focus in on Luca and Alberto more. So it was a sculptural kind of process. Well, let's take houses. This is really complicated. Do we need all this, right? And then we didn't immediately have the ending. So I think halfway through, actually a great conversation with my best friend kind of honed in on the fact that not only these friendships are really important in the way they challenge us when we meet, but they're really important and we are in how we carry them into the world and how often we have to go our separate ways. So that became an important thing, because then you had this kind of, we have an ending here that felt right, and it felt very much also something I've experienced, having to leave my home. And so those things came into focus halfway through the process.
Congratulations on this movie. You guys did such a great job with it. And I'm looking forward to watching it again without my name plastered across the middle.
Sorry about those. Those get in the way. That is how we see it for years too, because we offer, especially on Zoom, because they have to print those things that they're bothering me. Okay, well, yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it more.
I'm 100% sure. And hopefully you guys will be making another film again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.